Welcome to this HelloID webinar brought to you by Tools Forever. Today we'd like to give you an overview of the new functionality in HelloID. We encourage you to ask questions. You can do this via the chat option. You can find the option here. At the end of the demonstration, your questions will be answered. I'd like to turn this over now to Cheered Sign-In, HelloID Product Owner and Manager. He will explain and demonstrate the new HelloID functionality. Please enjoy, and don't forget to post a question.
Jamie, thank you for the introduction. Hello, welcome everybody to this June webinar. It is 1 week later than normal because due to a public holiday in the US last week. But in this webinar, I will cover all the new functionality that has been released last June. So this is not the functionality about the HelloID product as a whole, but just the new functionality we released in June. If you want to have any additional information or detailed information about other functionalities, please let us know because then we schedule a separate demo for you. Okay, so again, I will only cover the new functionality. If you have any questions, please let me know. Put it in the chat and then I will answer it at the end of this webinar. Okay, thank you. And let's start. I will start with a PowerPoint presentation. And after the PowerPoint presentation, I will show you the new functionality. I will start with service automation. There are 4 new items in this module. The first is that we now have the ability to delete a data source. That was not possible. Now you are able to delete it, and it will also show which form is depending on that data source. And I will demo you this functionality briefly. We also, and this is a bigger one, now we have the option to approve a request straight from the email. And as a manager or as an approver, you don't need to be logged into the HelloID portal. So you can do it straight from the email and you can approve the request. We also have included 2 new reports. Now you have the option as a product owner to have a cost per user overview. And for the manager, we also have a cost overview. And I will show you briefly these new reports. Provisioning. We have 3 new items, and we can now exclude persons from processing from the provisioning engine. And you can do that manually, but you can also set a rule. And this is pretty helpful if you want to exclude, for example, the managing director or the CEO from processing by provisioning because there are so many specifics for that user. Again, you can do this manually and by rule, and I will demo you this functionality in a minute. A big change is that you now have memberships or permissions on a target PowerShell connector. It was only able to create, delete, enable, disable, and update a user account, but now we also have added permissions. And so you can set and remove permissions from a user in a target PowerShell connector. And again, I will demo you this new functionality in a minute. We also now have the option to have the cloud PowerShell, the source connector, but now in the cloud. You used to have an agent, but you can still use the agent to retrieve data, but now you can also do it without the agent and do it straight from the HelloID cloud platform. So you don't need an agent anymore. Okay, last module, access management. We have 6 new items. We have improved the certificate management, and this is primarily for if a certificate is going to expire. And you can we do this on applications, IDP, and the portal certificates, and we do this 4, 2, and 1 week before the expiration. And in the last week, we do it every day, and then we do it on the expiration of the certificate and when the certificate is expired. So you will receive a lot of emails, but then you're absolutely sure that you don't miss an expiration on a certificate in HelloID. You can also manage your second factors. You're already able to do that as an end user, but now you're already able to remove them, but now you can also add a new second factor as an end user. Also, some smaller items. We have removed the password reset for external IDPs. That option didn't do anything, so we removed it. Small thing is that we have the IP restriction box a little bit better formatted. I will demo you that in a minute. We also included the source IDP in the group view. Particularly interesting if you had duplicate group names and you were not able to distinguish if it was a HelloID local group or, for example, an AD group. Now you can see it because it has a prefix or a column with the IDP. And we also improved the RMR claim for OpenID Connect. And I have a separate sheet. And after this sheet, I will start demoing the new functionality in the product. This was already available. So yeah, if you had two different tokens on an app, you want to replace that to multiple tokens by one token, and you want to just have the one single token to authenticate a user. And if that user was successful, you don't need to use these tokens on the different apps. To pass that information, we were using the RMR claim for OpenID Connect to an application. So then this application knows that there was already a two-factor being done by the end user. And then the end result, of course, is that there is only one token on the HelloID portal. The situation is that if you have Azure, and Azure is protected by the two-factor, you don't want to use the two-factor on the HelloID portal anymore, and you want to pass that information to these apps as well. Of course, this was already available, but this is new. So we also included the RMR claim if HelloID is the service provider and another IDP is the IDP provider. And this is a very common setup. That is Azure is the IDP, HelloID is the SP, and now you're able to pass this RMR claim information all the way to an end application. And I will not demo you this new functionality, but now you know what kind of functionality is available. Okay, so one sheet is that I'd like to demo you this new functionality to you. So let me start with service automation. And the first thing I'd like to show you is that you can delete the data sources. So go to self-service, data sources. And now if I want to delete this new, I can delete this data source. And it also gives me the choice that I can edit the form. Otherwise, if I delete this data source, it will break this form. So I can edit the form and change the data source. So here is the data source, and if I like, I can of course change this so it's not dependable on the data source anymore, and then I can safely delete that data source. Okay, now let me move over to approve workflow by email, and I will log in as an end user, as myself. And of course I will request a product. Let me choose the obvious one, Visio. And I request this product. And if I now go to the manager, Amir, Amir needs to approve that request. And now, of course, I'm logged in, but let me log off. And here's the request. Request from Cheered, requesting access to Visio. And now this is new. In the older version, I had to go to the request to the portal, need to be logged in. Now I can approve straight from the email that request from Cheered Seinen, and I'm not logged in the portal. So let me approve. the mail. Now the request has been approved without being logged in into the portal straight from the email. The other things I'd like to show you from service automation are two new reports. And let me filter because they're already Amir A2 cost in the subject. So these are the reports that are being sent to the manager. And one of them is new. So this one, we already had this one. So let me select this one. So this report was already available, and Mr. Manager, he's responsible for he's a department manager and responsible for a set of users, and he can immediately see what the cost per user is. So there was a manager overview, cost per user, but now we also include the cost per product. So not by user, but by product. And I can also see the total cost for all the products that are being used by my employees at my department, what the total accrued cost is for the ICT department. So I was all ready to see it per user, but now I can also see it per product. And we also include an extra report for the product owner. So now I'm here, but I'm not the department manager, but a product owner. And I can see all the products I'm responsible for, including the number of people that are being assigned to it and the total cost for all the products I'm responsible for. And just give you a small heads up where you can find this. This is in Insights, Scheduled Reports. These are all the reports that are currently available. And there you can see them by this combo select. And so you need to specify which report template you're using and to who you're going to send it and at what schedule. And of course, this was functionality available for a long time already, but we are adding more and more templates. If you want to have another report, just put it on the roadmap, and then it will be voted, and then we most likely going to use it and build it for you. Okay, so this was service automation. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will answer that at the end of this webinar. And now let me move over to provisioning. So for provisioning, we have 3 new items that exclude person from processing, target PowerShell memberships, and cloud PowerShell source. So let me start with excluding persons from provisioning. And you need this mechanism, or you might use this mechanism if you want to exclude people from provisioning, and then you don't want those users in your network to be touched by the HelloID provisioning engine. And those are most of the time specific users like the director or CEO of the company, and you don't want to have them touched by the provisioning engine. You want to do them manually. And so we have 2 options to exclude people. You can do that manually. So you have an exclusion option where you can include or exclude people from the engine. And this is all manually. Of course, you can also do this by a rule. And then for myself, for shared sign-on, I created a rule. So these are all manually by the process I just showed you. And this is managed by a source. So in the source connector, you can specify if users need to be excluded based on a particular attribute in the HR system, for example. So by the way, you can just see it and the person fold too, that a person is excluded. And you can also see if it then be done by the source or manually. And let me go to the source system and show you shared sign myself how to exclude that based on an attribute. So here, so this is a new field, excluded, and normally it would say that return false, so nobody is excluded. And what I do here is that for myself, and I have this employee number, I return through. So if I just look up a normal person, this person is not excluded, it's false. But if I look up myself and I have that this number, you will see that I'm excluded from this process. And you also see that here in this overview, is that based on the source value, I'm excluded from the provisioning process. Okay, and the next item is that you have target PowerShell memberships. So let me move over to the target connector. This option was already available, so you could create an account, delete, update, enable and disable the account. And this is new. This is the permission. And now you can get all the available permissions in the target connector, and then you can grant them and revoke them based on the business rule. So if I go to the business rules section and go to plus, so here is my SQLite connector. Here you can see that these permissions are available. And if I go back to the target connector, the list I just showed you is the same list I show you right here. So this is the same list I just showed you in the business rule. So basically what the business rule does is request permission and run this entitlement script and giving the options to select from. And if a user is going to be granted or revoked, then this script is going to be executed. So here you can see that based on a grant, an insert in the membership table will be executed. And there's a user ID and group ID. This is basically the permission. So this is the user here, and this is the permission. Basically, that's going to be inserted in the membership table. And of course, you have all sorts of preview options. You can see what is actually being done in the system. I think a very powerful extension. So now you can have membership management in any target system that you can connect with a PowerShell connector. The last is a simple thing to show. It's the Cloud PowerShell source connector. And I have to show this in a preview environment because there I have a PowerShell connector configured. So this is a PowerShell connector. And here is the new option. So if I tick box, this is a small change on the GUI, but a big change in the backend. Now this script to retrieve information from the HR system is executed by the agent running on premise. And if I tick box this, then the script will be executed not by the agent, but by our HelloID cloud environment. So you don't need an agent, and then the script will be completely executed in the HelloID cloud environment. So you don't need any resources on premise anymore. Okay, this is for provisioning. If you have any questions, put it in the chat box, and then I will answer it at the end of the webinar. So now let me move over to access management. That's the last module I'd like to address today. So for access management, we have 6 new items, and 5 of them I will briefly show to you. And the first item is that we have improved the certificate management with the notification that a certificate is about to expire. And then if that event happens, you get an email like this, and the email will be sent to you that is listed in our portal. So if you want to change the to address of the certificates, you need to check and double check that with ToolsRever. But again, we will send the certificates on the domain, the portal, and on the applications. And we do that 4 weeks ago in advance, 3, 2, 1. And in the last week, we will repeat this every day. And even if a certificate is expired, we will continue to update you. And you can actually see this because it's a relatively old certificate that is expired. Okay, so you can also, that's the another item is that you can manage your own second factors. So I'm logged in here as myself, and if I go to profile, you need to go to security. here you can see that I can have remove and add second factors, and this is a new option. So I can add email as a second factor. So let's demo this. Remove the second factor um, as an email, and then let me re-add it again. Scan the QR code. So I have my phone here. Add, and that's it. So now I have re-added, removed it, and re-added my phone as a second factor. Hide. Another item is that you can hide password reset. That, well, we actually hide it if it's not longer available or applicable, I would say. So if you have a local user, you can still reset your password, and you will reset the password in a local HelloID IDP. But if it's an external, like an Active Directory, you cannot reset your password anymore. So we remove this option here. So that looks a lot better. IP restriction. So go to security policies. This is a really minor option, but let me briefly show it to you. Then you have from network. If I type in it shows not as a text box anymore, but it's nicely formatted. It's a little bit just a UI change. Um, the last item I'd like to show you before I go over to the questions is, or answering the questions, is that in the groups you have the source. And this is particularly helpful if, for example, if you search for a group that seems to be a duplicate, but now you can see that this is a local HelloID group, and this is an Active Directory external IDP group. And this was not available, and it's also available on different combo select box buttons options in the product. Okay, so let me move back to my PowerPoint presentation, and I probably have to restart. Excuse me, taking a little bit. There we go. Sorry. Jamie, I see there are some questions. Can you read them for me? Thank you.
Hi, Jared. Yes, thank you so much for that presentation. First question I have, how can I change the certificate notification email address?
You cannot change the certificate notification email address yourself. Then that can only be done by ToolsRever. ToolsRever will also get a copy of the notification message, so we can alert you if you don't respond. But if you want to have a particular email address, you need to contact your local ToolsRever office and to update this email address. Okay, next question, Jamie.
Sure. Is the remove data source supported by API?
No, to remove the data source, you need to do that via the GUI I showed you today. And the API will be available next month and July release. Thank you. Next question, Jamie.
This one is talking about documentation. Are the new features documented yet?
Yes, all the new features are documented. We're putting more and more effort in to get the documentation in line with the new functionality we are releasing. And just to briefly show you this, if I go to the documentation section, HelloID docs, we're constantly changing this format as well. And if you go to the manual, and for example, to provisioning, you will see here that exclude persons from provisioning is available and completely documented. This is the same functionality I just showed you. I think it's important to know that if you are in provisioning, that the online help is not giving you the right support. You really have to search in this section for the right documentation. Okay, Jamie, another question. I think this is the last question.
Last question, when do you still need the HelloID agent?
Yes, you still need the HelloID agent. If you're using access management, you need the agent. If you still have the Active Directory as the IDP, you need the agent for authentication and synchronization with the Active Directory. But if you use Azure, you don't need the agent anymore. Then you can use agent free. Perhaps you still need an agent if you do provisioning with the on-premise target connector, and that will be available in the cloud in August. So you have to wait another 2 months, and then if you have everything in the cloud, you can use actually the PowerShell connector in the HelloID cloud environment, and then you don't need an agent anymore. Perhaps the only reason why you still need an agent is that you still want to do some service automation provisioning jobs. But for the provisioning engine, you don't need any agent technology anymore. Okay, Jamie, I see this is the last question. Everybody, thank you for your attention, and hopefully see you next time with the next release. Again, it will be an exciting release. Thank you so far for your time and attention, and have a very nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye.